How did the settlers of Easter Island move the legendary Moai statues? Their own legends claim they used magic, chanting to make the statues walk, which is low-key sounding like a better explanation than what modern science has. Overall, they made a total of 887 of these statues that surround the entire island, using compressed volcanic ash from the island's volcano Rano Raraku. Now, the big question is, how the flip did they move these things in place? Modern science claims methods used, such as walking, tying ropes to the statue's head and swinging it side to side, as well as rolling them on logs of wood, could have worked. And they do. We've proven them many times with experiments all around the world. Just one problem. The heaviest Moai statue we've been able to move in these experiments was 10 tons. But Rapa Nui, the original name given to Easter Island, has Moais that are up to 86 tons, almost 9 times what we've been able to replicate, as well as an unfinished one that was supposed to be around 270 tons. Not to mention, in 2012, an excavation project revealed that these statues have full-ass bodies underneath them, and only 3/8 of them are sticking above the ground. So how did they move them? Why did they bury them so deep? We out here struggling to figure out how they did it. Meanwhile, the Rapa Nui people themselves are saying, "Hey bro, we used magic." An explanation that is seen repeated among the myths of almost every other ancient structure around the world, such as the Mayan and Egyptian pyramids. Given the Rapa Nui techniques as we currently explain them, it would have taken them over a year to carve a single Moai, not to mention actually moving them on top of farming, building homes, and regular day-to-day survival tasks of their reported population of around 3,000 people. Some historians claim it would have taken them way longer than the alleged 1,000 or so years to make 900 of these things. More on that, the name that Rapa Nui gave these statues was Aringa Ora Ata Tepuna, roughly translating to the living faces of our holy ancestors, which almost sounds like they were trying to hint at being descendants of some previous civilization. Now, I'm not saying at all that the Rapa Nui people didn't do any of this. In fact, I agree with them. Their myths almost make more sense than our modern explanations. Traveling nearly 4,000 kilometers by sea with no known motivation, finding a tiny island like a needle in a haystack in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, carving and moving nearly 900 Moai statues, some of which weigh up to 90 tons, using nothing but wooden canoes, knowledge of the stars, ropes, logs, and stone tools is questionable to say the least. Accepting our current explanations of ancient history as the end-all and be-all ultimate 100% truth of what actually happened, and if you question it you should be cancelled and exiled from society, is a very close-minded way of thinking. What I'm saying is, what if ancient Polynesians were even smarter than we thought, and had technology far more advanced than we could have ever imagined, and Easter Island, Hiva, and the surrounding Pacific Islands were once part of a greater civilization with these advanced technologies that allowed them to achieve these amazing feats, that maybe got washed away by some global cataclysm, leaving behind only tiny islands sprawled throughout the Pacific, which they continue to defiantly explore. I talk about this 8th lost continent of Mu that could explain this in a previous video that got a lot of people mad. And again, I'm not saying any of this is true, it's just a crackpot what if theory, so tear my ass up in the comments.
To me, they seem like the UFC champion Alex Pereira.
Was the US government behind the greatest and most horrific act of terrorism ever on American soil?
Iraq had nothing to do with weapons of mass destruction, absolutely had nothing to do with Saddam Hussein having any links to Al-Qaeda or 9/11, but had everything to do with gaining control of Iraq's oil.
The Twin Towers are not collapsing. They are being blown up from the top down, starting at the floors of impact. See the ring of explosions moving down the Twin Towers.
Harriet suggests that these explosions of smoke are controlled demolitions which brought the building down.
This is not gravity at work.
I mean, there are tons and tons of videos which explain that 9/11 was an inside job. At this point, it's not even a conspiracy anymore.
You believe the Earth is flat?
Yeah, I believe the Earth is flat.
What piece of evidence made you start believing?
Well, I looked into the moon landings. I don't believe that we landed on a moon. There's a lot of evidence to support that. We've only gone up to 1,000 miles above the Earth's surface.
To imply that the Earth is flat, you aren't just saying that NASA is lying. You aren't just saying there's a conspiracy within a single company. You're implying there's a conspiracy involving the world's 71 space agencies, 13 of which have launching capabilities. Not only are you saying all 71 of those agencies are lying about the shape of the Earth, but every single person in them is lying or being fooled by their respective companies. Furthermore, every single astrophysicist in the world is, by your implication, a scam artist getting paid to do research through telescopes and instruments that would be useless if the world were flat. So roughly 75,000 people are lying about what they do for a living. Not only is it absurd to even imply that NASA program that under the United States government could possibly pull off this sort of conspiracy, but the fact that all 71 space agencies around the world are also taking part in some conspiracy, and every astronomer and astrophysicist and astronaut is also part of the same. It just seems that so many different people are involved in this major conspiracy.
Yeah, all the
way he started glitching. Yeah. All the
Everything you thought you knew, throw it out the window, okay? Last night, a 90-minute conference took place letting you know that you are not alone in the universe. The reason we've been seeing more and more alien sightings isn't because it's fake, isn't because it's Project Blue Book, it's because we, as human species, have developed technology so powerful that it could ripple time and affect other species. No, I know that sounds crazy, but that is the truth. The conference stated last night that there was up to 60 to 70 species that we know of. I want you to sit back, relax, and listen to a little bit of what some of our scientists have talked about last night in our meeting.
Extremely advanced that are concerned with what we're doing. This station at the South Pole is a much later version of a man that I worked with for a number of years in the 90s who invented the neutrino light detector system on the satellites up in space. He knew then that these were being used, and this was in the 70s, to track, target, and destroy extraterrestrial assets in space and also around the Earth. Now, these civilizations, given their extremely advanced state, had they wished to punch back, they would have. However, they are inordinately peaceful, they are organized in a group, and we need to come forward as a people instead of looking at everything as a military threat and see that there's an opportunity here, and there has to be diplomacy and science and disclosure of the truth in order to avoid a catastrophe. My understanding is the technologies that are in these covert programs have become so advanced that at some point they could be a threat to these other worlds. As such, it puts our entire planet at risk because of the unchecked power and technology of the illegal secret government projects. This is a much graver national security threat than China, Russia, Iran, or anything the news media is currently covering. Next. I want to give you a call to action. All of you listening, the citizens of the world, not just the United States. If you know someone who is a government contractor, a government employee, military, what have you, who has information on this, please have them contact us at this email address. Please write your members of Congress. We live in a democracy still. You should write to your 2 senators and your representative and the President of the United States expressing your concern and calling for open hearings. We need to network with our friends and families and get them to support this effort. You need, if you can, to contribute to our effort. I'm retired as a doctor, so, I can't fund everything at this point like I had. If you can assist with the Energy Research Lab that we are proposing in the Lost Century, you'll see that, then please contact us. We have a $50 million funding need to stand up a open source energy lab. What does that mean? We would develop these zero-point energy technologies and they would be released free of charge, open source to the entire world so we can quickly solve the environmental and poverty problems we are facing.
I told you so.
Okay, let me get this straight. Aliens are their biggest threat. Yet, they haven't done anything. Anything. Or are they hiding something?
I will argue this shit until the end of me, okay? If you haven't seen my video that I posted a while ago, my dad ended up passing away, okay? Tragic plane accident, he worked for the government. My video blew up, it's on Reddit. You can look it up, Troy Johnson plane crash. He texts us and says, yo, I'll be there at this time. He wasn't there at this time. Stop, because obviously he crashed in the Pacific Ocean, okay? We have the video footage of the plane crash. I put that on TikTok because it looks fake and it looks staged. And I've been arguing with my family. Some people agree with me, some don't. You know, you get the point of like, yo, he's passed away, let him rest, quit coming up with these theories. Understandable. But then there's my opinion, who totally thinks he's not dead. For a while, I was like, yeah, he's passed away. Put it to rest, like, move on. And I do. I live my life every day. And I stood by this for many years, like, don't put personal stuff on the internet, especially about Dad. But then I started hearing the little pieces and I started digging. And that's what messed me up, dude, is I was like, this doesn't, and then I got hold of the footage of the plane crash and I'm like, does not add up, period. I think he's gonna pull up. I think he's gonna show up. My brother turns 18. He's the last kid to turn 18 in January. And I feel like there's a contract or something that when all the kids are 18, he could come back out and for some reason he had to fake his death. Or if he's not alive and he's actually gone, it was like something sketchy happened there. I see a bunch of people like posting videos like, I want answers, and then they get the answers. But like with me, like it's connected to the government, so I really don't think I'm gonna get the answers. And listen to this, my mom called someone important in the government when this happened and claimed, hey, I want answers, I want the footage, because my dad had a camera in the plane. I want that footage. Nope, it's top security. What's top security? My dad was top security and somehow he's dead. And then listen to this. There was a text he sent my little sister that said, I can post it. I can get it from her. It says, if all things go well, I will see you tonight. We didn't see him tonight. And my mom will even say his texts that day were shady. The way he talked in text messages was weird. Like, you know that like person you text and it's like, I can tell this isn't you, like who has your phone? That's the vibe, dude. Thing is about the government, they can like delete and they cannot give you things. And I feel like I don't have the things that they're not giving me. I don't think I have all the information.
So I'm curious to know, was he on a secret mission?
This is Gary Glitter, one of the worst pedophiles in world history. And this guy was a rock star. The story is extremely disturbing. So all of the bad things that Gary Glitter had done in the past resurfaced in 2019 when The Joker came out. His song was the one that was used during this infamous dancing stairway scene. But let's rewind. Paul Francis Gadd was born in 1944 in England. It was in the year 1971 during the glam rock movement when Paul began to use the stage name Gary Glitter and his career really took off. The release of his album titled Glitter was a massive success. The song Rock and Roll reached high points on all charts across the world and he seemed to be this, new age progressive rock and roll star. And for years, Gary was heralded as a rock and roll icon. This guy was loved by thousands, millions of people across the planet. But that would all change in the year 1997 when Gary took his computer into a repair shop in England. The technician at the time that was taking a look at Gary's laptop discovered CP images on his hard drive. The police then got involved, they searched his home and found even more CP. This guy was sick. After all was said and done, it was discovered that Gary had downloaded over 4,000 images of CP onto his computer. He had also had a relationship with a 14-year-old girl in the 1970s, and he was given a 4-month prison sentence. After he was released from prison, Gary felt the heat from the public now hating him in England, so he fled to another country. But after the authorities in Cambodia discovered who he was exposed and he was then deported to Bangkok. He eventually settled, though, in Vietnam. And it was in Vietnam where Gary resumed his typical pedo behaviors. He was banned from a nightclub for groping a teenage waitress. Other people saw him bringing 2 young girls into his home. And on November 12, 2005, Gary fled his home in Vietnam. Authorities eventually searched the place and found a 15-year-old girl that was living with him. He then tried to escape the country, but he was arrested at the airport. And from that point on, multiple Vietnamese girls came forward that were underage and said that Gary Glitter had, assaulted them in the past. After all was said and done, he was sentenced to about 3 years in prison in Vietnam. And if he would have been convicted on all the charges that he faced, he might have been executed by firing squad. Eventually, though, he served his sentence and he was released in Vietnam, and after a lot of countries said they wouldn't let Gary Glitter in, he returned home to the UK. But he wasn't safe there. He was arrested shortly after arriving back in the UK after he faced a number of new allegations against him. Eventually, he was charged with 8 counts of sexual offenses against girls from the ages of 12 to 14 in the years 1977 to 1980. One of these charges alleged that he even crept into a 10-year-old girl's bed and attempted to SA her. So after a lengthy trial, he was finally caught again. He was imprisoned, but he could be released next year in 2023. I know that the movie The Joker received a lot of backlash for using Gary Glitter's song because he was compensated with royalties, even after all of these things had happened to him. And yeah, this just shows that this guy was not and is not a good dude.
And on top of that, he's still receiving royalties.
It's over there, look! Can you see it?
Alright, it's time to go south. Let's go.
Fucking...
We're expert in skinwalkers. I'm just kind of guessing. And I couldn't find any videos on how to hunt for skinwalkers.
Why would you hunt skinwalkers?
I did find it. That guy was right. The desert is very disorienting. Yes, I did. The city down there, that's how far away I am. In the middle of the desert. Look at my GPS. Look at the shadow of somebody on the wall.
Scary video was recovered from a trail camera in the Appalachian Mountains.
Holy moly, someone was standing there.
You know how every cereal box has a mascot? The Trix one, the Cocoa Puffs, Fruit Loops, right? If you look really close, the mascots aren't looking straight. They're all looking down. It's known to make the characters make direct eye contact with the kids.
Oh, because they're short.
To kind of engage them to go for that cereal. The Honey Nut Cheerio, the one with the bee. The extra sugar one has the mascot on it. The one with just the cereal bowl and the strawberries. No mascot. That's for the adults.
The adult one, they have like the heart.
The heart, but no mascot looking at them. In the shelves, the bottom two are more the sugary ones.
Oh, because it's easy access.
The top ones are like the multi-grain, like, you're not trying to read.
If you go to a convenience store, where do they have the candy? Super low, right in front of the cashier. When I'm with my mom or dad, they're paying for something at the convenience store. I'm a little kid. What's right in front of me while I'm waiting? Candy. Mom, can I get this? Easy access, bro.